All right, well, welcome back to the Fairview Church podcast. My name is Drew, and I'm here with Beck.
Hey, guys.
And we are going to be discussing something upcoming that many people are excited for, which is VBS. Okay, so VBS is a time that everyone, no matter what age, looks forward to. So, Beck, give us a little bit of, a description of the theme, because I always love the themes. That's like the thing I anticipate the most is what's going to be the theme. So what's the theme this year? What's kind of the theme verse? What are we really going to be talking about for this year?
Lovely. So it is Illumination Station. Jesus is the light of the world, which comes from John 8:12. And we are going to have lots of light all over the church building. I'm super excited. Our decorations team is working already super hard on cultivating some really beautiful, meaningful pieces to make our environment as immersive as possible for our kids. But Illumination Station, Drew, get ready. It's going to be a really wonderful time.
Magnify was last year. Really cool decorations. But the themes to me always really showcase kind of, give a glimpse into what we're going to be talking about, which I think this specific year, this I am statement of Jesus, I'm very glad that is the theme because I think it's so important for really kids to be able to not only hear a truth about Jesus, but something that he declared himself. Like this is what Jesus said about himself, that he is the light of the world. And so, it gives this level of authority to that what we're going to be talking about. So super excited for that. Yes, a lot of lights on stage, a lot of lights everywhere. So going to be really fun. But for VBS, there's obviously a lot of need for serve team members.
Yes, there is.
And last year was my first VBS here at Fairview, and there was a lot of serve team members, which was awesome. And the greatest thing that I know many listeners and can appreciate, and obviously Beck, you appreciate, is there is serve team members from all ages.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the most distinct things about VBS that you really see during this time of year is students at the youngest age all the way through. So it's really awesome to see that.
Yes.
And really, if you've noticed and if you've served, you work, right? I was sweating after last year. So I'm super excited for this year. But how can this year for VBS move from just an event to becoming really just a meaningful entry point for reaching our neighbors and forming disciples across all generations?
I love it. So I'd like to look at it as kind of a starting line for some. It is a starting line for some, right? If they have not ever walked into the doors of Fairview Church and they're your neighbor from down the street, or maybe they just moved, right? We're getting an influx of new families in Wilson County. And so it is a starting line for some. It is a starting line of they're coming into Fairview Church for the first time. They've not stepped foot on our campus. And so it's their first impression of what Fairview Church possibly is. And to kind of go off with the light, where yes, we're going to be talking about prisms and light and rainbows and things, but more importantly, we are going to be talking about Jesus, who is the light of the world, right? And then secondly, it's also kind of like an entry point if you look at just the discipleship pathway of our kids. It's another entry point of intentional discipleship. It's not just this amazing event, though it's lots of fun. Went to a VBS training, I think 2 years ago, and they said, VBS is so fun, right? Think of glasses. If I had like some really cool confetti glasses with all the different colors, that's going to be the frames, the confetti and all the colors. But like the lens is gospel centric. And so the kids, like our kids will have, an encounter with Christ that week specifically. So within that discipleship pathway, that's kind of that meaningful moment of thinking through what does it look like for first-time guests? What does it also look like for our kids who are here on Wednesdays and Sundays? What can they get different that maybe they don't get on Wednesday nights or Sundays? But also, how can we, if they have professed Christ, how can we encourage them to even level up in serving, even as an attender? Does that make sense? And so that's why we do the groups the way that we do. It's not by grade level, though that's kind of like a traditional model, but it is, we kind of mix up the groups. We have kindergartners through 5th grade in the specific groups so that the 5th graders and 4th graders and 3rd graders can help the kindergartners, 1st and 2nd graders. And, I'm hoping and praying that our 5th graders and 4th graders, as we've continued to talk about the gospel in our kids ministry, they're able to actually help filter that information down to the youngest in that discipleship posture. Does that make sense? But I think at the front lines of it all, yes, the kids are there, but from speaking from students and from an adult perspective, it really comes down to our crew leaders, who are the ones walking around the crews to all the events, to missions, to snacks, to rec, to Bible study, to crafts. They get that one-on-one time with the kids, eye to eye, knee-to-knee discipleship, and the conversation with the parents or guardians at pickup and drop off. And I also think our registration team, they are the very first people that you possibly see, right? Whether they're welcoming you in or they're walking you over to the registration tables or the pre-registration tables. Their goal is, yes, to make families feel welcome and loved and seen, but then it's also to start building those bridges of connection so that it is a meaningful entry point. Does that make sense? And that team does such a fantastic job. So shout out to our registration team. You know, I love you, friends.
Hard job. It's a hard job.
It is a hard job because you're getting lots of things, and at
so
some
many
points,
people.
It's chaos, but it's organized chaos,
Yeah.
and we are grateful for it with our systems that we've got in place. And then even with parent pickup, sometimes the parents get there early, and so I have our leaders out there probably 15, 20 minutes early before the parents are even supposed to arrive, so that they can have those one-on-one conversations if that mom comes early or if that dad comes early. Or like I did last year, I told the parents to be there at 8. And they're supposed to be there at 8:30. So there was a 30-minute gap of intentional conversations that got to happen. And so we were very grateful for that.
Yeah. I think for many people, they don't even know that the age range is kind of dispersed, where a lot of our older kids, 4th, 5th grade, really have opportunities to lead, possibly. I remember when I was a crew leader with, I think the Cheerful Chipmunks. I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong about that, I'm so sorry, but I think that was what it was called. But some of our older 5th graders were actually leading some of our 2nd graders, our 1st graders. And some of them, like you mentioned, were families that normally aren't here. And so maybe it was a neighbor, maybe it was a friend. And so you already just mentioned the aspect of connecting with the family, connecting with parents, getting to know them. I mean, I know as a crew leader, and many people who are listening who've been a crew leader, you do talk to the parents a lot, especially the ones who have maybe never stepped foot into Fairview. Registration team talks to the parents a lot. And so through those intentional conversations, really the prayer would be those families would want to experience a great week, but also feel loved and feel cared for. And if there is needs for their kid, that they're met. And so really, when that happens, we pray that they come back and see the fruit that maybe VBS week brought to their child, and then see how much the church cared, see how much the leaders cared. And so we would want these families to come be a part of Fairview. And the great thing here at Fairview is we have so many avenues for new families, not just moms and dads, but families overall, to actually really see, I guess, behind the scenes, a deeper look into what Fairview is, where we're going, what we believe. And so the welcome party, which many people are probably familiar with, where families who are interested in what Fairview is, just learning more, asking questions, getting to know staff, that happens after the gathering on Sunday. And then Discover Fairview, which is a 2-part class that happens where people really get to see really what we believe in depth. And then through that, Discover Fairview is a way for them to pursue membership. And then I would love for you to talk even about the starting point class, because that's something that's huge for families that are maybe new to Fairview.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so thinking through the connection piece, because that's really what you're talking about, Drew. You know, I know often we get so bogged down with numbers and we're like, well, how many attended? And it's like, really, I want for our leaders, our crew team members, anyone who volunteers at VBS to understand, it's not necessarily about the attendance number. It's more about the connections that we're having in the nights that we get with these kids. Because even if these families who are brand new, again, it's summertime, so some of them are traveling, some of them are doing all sorts of stuff. It could also affect with sports if there's baseball in the summer or whatnot. But what connections actually happened. And, we're going to talk about in a little bit of like what that next step looks like. And you've mentioned 3 wonderful options, right? Welcome party, Discover Fairview part 1, part 2, and then hopefully becoming a member of Fairview Church if they've trusted Christ and go through our process. But the starting point class is gift to
Yeah.
any family that can attend when your kids are asking questions. Right now, we've got a bunch of kids that are just so curious about who Jesus is, what it means to follow him faithfully. Is there anything special about baptism and the water? And I mean, they're
Yeah.
asking all sorts
Yeah.
of wonderful questions. And so that starting point class we're actually going to have in August. So we'll move up, and then we'll start that class probably the end of August into the beginning of September. And just walking with our parents through those conversations with their kids as we disciple them and partner with the parents as they are discipling their
Yeah.
kiddos at home. But it is such a great launching point into a new school year. And it allows, I love the fact that we've moved VBS up just a little bit to June so that we do have June and July to kind of sit down and follow up intentionally with the parents and to ask the questions of like, hey, your kid circled this on the card. We used to do starting point literally like the Sunday after VBS.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no time for conversation with
Yeah.
these parents. There's no time to ask and to say, hey, okay, first off, you know, your kid has come. They're not necessarily ingrained here at Fairview. Oh, you're a church member from another church. Okay, great. Well, then let me connect with your kid's pastor
Yeah.
or your pastor and say, hey, this is what happened here at VBS, and stewarding them well. Because again, we want connection. We want to steward these families well, whatever they look like coming in our doors.
Yeah.
If it's someone brand new, well, then that gives us time for either maybe the crew leaders to take them out to lunch, right? To follow up with them, or for myself to follow up with them, and then to be able to onboard them into that starting point process. And within that 2-month period, if you will, or that month of July, we'll probably end up having a welcome party.
Yeah.
There probably will be a Discover Fairview class, which will allow for those next steps to be feasible, but also not overwhelming.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It'll be like
Yeah.
a natural rhythm, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah. I think, really just from a perspective of understanding how important that is, like having those next steps available for families. Because so many families come that maybe do not have a church home, or maybe do, but still being able to steward this week correctly.
Yeah.
So, whether it be reaching out to your church home and talking to your kid's pastor and saying, hey, here's what the conversation was with this kid, or even here. So kind of having those resources available is not just like a good thing. It is mandatory.
It's necessary, yeah.
Because if VBS is just a week and no follow-up or discipleship after, the VBS is pointless.
Right.
VBS is a great week where it engages kids and families, but more importantly, kids to think of the truth of, a great one this year, that Jesus is the light of the world. But like you were saying, those questions will compound after week after week after week. And if you have ever served in kids, which I have before, they will ask some of the most interesting, awesome questions.
Yes.
And I remember just like, not laughing at some of the questions, but you're just like, man, like that is such a deep theological question that they don't even realize they've asked, but it's just something that's on their heart. And so VBS is a time where they just start asking so many good questions.
Yes.
And some of those questions take really partnerships with the family to see, hey, how can we answer this correctly? Because again, you want to give a thoughtful answer to these kids' questions. And so,
Yeah. Well, Andrew, before we go on,
Yeah.
so families that are listening, or even crew leaders that are listening, sometimes we're going to give you behind the scenes stuff here. And so, like something that I'm very passionate about, and my team that works with registration and specifically putting kids in the crews. Now it looks a little different on like night 1 or night 3 when they're coming in, because we've already established crews. But this is why pre-registration is so important. So Fairview families, if you have neighbors, if you have friends that we want to invite them to VBS, start now asking them. And put it in the comments. Put it in the registrations comments, meaning registration comments. Put it in there that, hey, we invited so-and-so, so that our team can be looking out for that friend, so that 1, we can place them with your child, but then 2, we can be very intentional with the crew leaders that we're placing there. I always try to place, like if we have a new crew leader, I try to place a veteran crew leader with that new crew leader. But even more intentional with the kids that are in the crew. I try to look at, and I'm praying over, Lord, these are the crew leaders that you have given us this year. who needs to be in their crews.
Yeah.
And so it's not just a random rotation and it's just filled in automatically. No, like literally Jameson, myself, Morgan, last year it was with Noel. We are talking through, okay, this leader has this strength and this gifting. Oh, they would be really good and really beneficial for this kid. Or, hey, this leader is actually our 4th grade community group leader or our kindergarten teacher. I think she would really jive well, or she really jived well with this specific student in kindergarten this past year. So let's continue on that discipleship process. Or it could be where we're looking ahead and we're saying, hey, this is their 1st grade teacher, and so I want to go ahead and build that bridge. So again, families, it's about building bridges. It's about building those connections and figuring out not what like the next 3 steps are, but really what is that next step for that specific family or for that specific kid that's attending VBS.
Yeah, and that can happen. So I guess easier on a lot of people's part is just registering early. So we love when you register early. It's like it's like our favorite thing. So
we celebrate. Drew and I, we're like, woohoo!
Yes, no Christmas gifts required. Just registration early.
We need that on a t-shirt.
I'll put it on one.
That's fantastic.
Another question just for VBS and really discipleship focus. So how can we equip not just our adults, but also our kids and our students to begin living as disciples making disciples now?
Well, I think it starts with a posture of prayer, right? So families, like at the dinner table, Fairview, you guys know, we've got our big, light bright out front. We've got the big flashlight that says sign up for VBS. But I think it's, again, this posture of like, Lord, who do you want us to invite?
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're at the front lines of this. We have the opportunity to go out into our community, invite families, invite kids, invite friends in school right now while they're still in school, because summer's coming, You're on ball teams. You're in a dance company. Who is there that you can go ahead and invite? Go ahead and get them to register for Vacation Bible School, and begin having your kids have those conversations. Like, hey, what was your favorite part about VBS? Having your kids share that, and then saying, hey, well, can you think of a friend who you could share that with and invite them to Vacation Bible School now. So just those simple rhythms and routines of praying, inviting someone, going out of your way to show kindness, or living in the fruit of the Spirit. And so if your child has trusted in Christ, that is automatically given to them, right? Yeah. So how can they apply patience, show kindness, gentleness, steadfastness, those types of things, loving their neighbors as themselves, right? Yeah. Just really carrying out what Mark 12 says. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, just
loving
really
your neighbor as yourself.
Kids, being bold with, inviting their friends to even be a part, parents inviting other parents that they know to be a part. And so
I think also, sorry, Drew, it just hit me as I'm thinking through just student aspect, but like there are some students that are already in communication with our craft leaders that are so pumped. Yeah. And one of our craft leaders is like, Beck, I really want some of our students to lead out in this capacity. And so some of it's in the prepping too, right? Yeah. The preparations and those types of things.
Yeah. Students, you're serving. We want you to serve.
We do, because you bring such good energy.
No one can do the craziness of VBS and still somehow have enough energy to do cleanup. And so we're like, students, you have all the energy in the entire world. You're not even tired after tonight.
Well,
so
and
keep going.
They bring, listen, I say you have good energy. You do have good energy because you do inspire. I will tell you this. I've heard it over and over and over again. I think this will be my 7th VBS that I've done here at Fairview. But the older saints, or the adults rather, because I'm also now getting tired at VBS. But when we see you guys just rallying on Wednesday night and you're still having a ball, and it really does inspire the rest of the team to be like, you know what, yes, we can still do this. Now also there's probably coffee, the Holy Spirit, and
energy drinks.
Energy drinks and all those things.
Yes.
So
it is true. But students make a huge impact. I mean, so many of them served last year. And honestly, a lot of them from even conversations that I've had, a lot of them, that was like their first time really serving in VBS. And so for them to, come back this year, serve, a lot of them some of them were a part of a crew. Some of them, serving in all different aspects, in crafts, obviously, in games. So really so many different areas for them to serve. And they know really more than anyone, why being relational is so important. They believe that with all their heart. And so they know that, just as much as the adults do how important that is. And so I'm proud of them, but continue to serve.
Yeah, well, and it's special too because students, I hope that you're listening at some point in some capacity, but our kids look up to you. I cannot tell you how many times I'm having conversations with our kids and they're referring to Colby, or they're referring there's just names that they're bringing to light. Micah, Jack, like all of these precious kids whom we love, who we've watched at Fairview, and for the ones that are new, we want our kids to know you, right? But we want you to be that example, and so there is this level of like wherever we assign you, and trust me, I'll be talking to Drew and Alex and figuring out where the best place to place you all. But we want you to take ownership of that role, right? It's not just like I'm here to check a box and I'm here to hang out with friends. No, like there is a job to do and to do it well for the glory of the Lord. So it'll be a sweet time.
Absolutely. And so our mission of reaching our neighbors with the true freedom found in full surrender to Christ, really, how can VBS reflect that mission?
Okay, so a couple things that I thought through when I was looking and just praying over this question, but one is just, it's not just about being in this building. When we think about VBS, you mentioned this, Drew, already, right? Being at VBS, great and wonderful, but if there's no connection, if there's no building a bridge, if there's no next step, and that next step really, even if you were here every single Sunday and every single Wednesday, you have a next step. We all have a next step. The leaders have a next step. What are we doing with the stuff? I implore and I encourage leaders. I give them a training booklet or whatnot. There's devotions for the leaders to walk through because I want our leaders to know the theme that we're covering that night. I want them to know the passage that we're covering that night.
Yeah.
I want them to know the key truth that we're believing about who God is or about who Jesus is. That requires taking ownership. And so thinking through reaching our neighbors, well, what's stopping you from taking those truths, leaders, and encouraging someone at the grocery store or encouraging someone at work, right? Or inviting a neighbor to come to VBS because we're learning about this really cool thing.
Yeah.
Mind you, it is King Jesus and who he is, right? But also, I think from a home discipleship standpoint, our team really thinks intentionally on like the at-home discipleship resources that we send home every night. And sometimes that is just the kids' favorite snack and an intentional prayer note from our registration team. So that is something that they've done the past couple years, and it's been such a blessing to that team to know that every single kid that comes on our campus is being prayed for. We are meeting a specific need, or we are at least loving them in a specific way by giving them something to eat that is their favorite snack out of a list, right? But then two, there is an encouragement note, and with an ask of like, we would love for you to come back, or we'd love to see you on Sunday, But I think all of us, if you are serving in VBS or if you're attending a VBS, there is some way that we can think about how we are reaching our neighbors with the true freedom found in full surrender to Christ. And so for leaders, it looks like maybe making those asks or coming prepared, knowing what the theme is, the verse, the passage that we're in. For the kids attending, and that would be students too, but for the kids attending, it might be, hey, can we really work through the discipleship resource that was taken home? That's going to review the verse, the theme, whatever we covered that night in Vacation Bible School. But then there's always this missional component. Like last year, we did the gospel, like sharing the gospel in the form of a butterfly because it went with the magnified theme. But there's always something in that nature to where you could take that resource and you could invite a friend over and do it. I know some of our families did that. They invited friends over, and the mom was like, oh man, we haven't done our VBS little at-home discipleship thing. Well, they did it together. So then they were able to build that bridge. Like we're building bridges into their homes, and they're building bridges to their neighbors' homes, if you will, or their friends' homes, by doing those activities, not just with their family, but with another family. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think too, even I guess from, how can a serve team member, be missional after VBS? I think one of the coolest things, again, I'm a big theme guy, but even the theme of John chapter 8, verse 12 of Jesus is the light of the world, but the I am statements of Jesus are very simple, but filled with truth. And so for anyone who doesn't know the truth of the gospel, really showing them this is what Jesus declares about himself. This isn't what people have said about Jesus, but this is what Jesus said about himself. And so kind of being able to present in that way of this is what he's claimed about himself and what is your response to the fact that Jesus is the remedy for our sin? And so that's the question really, and that we're going to be even proposing to the kids is, this is what Jesus says. And, for someone to claim that he's the light of the world, you have to respond to that claim, whether you believe it or you don't.
Yeah.
And so really that's a question that really makes us think of how are we asking that to our coworker or a friend. So I think the I am statements, I fell in love with those at Carson Newman when I had a class over John, and we went through a lot of these I am statements, and they're just so, you don't really realize how easy it could be to really start a conversation just with those I am statements. So VBS theme, I think, is going to be great and so beneficial for our kids, just to be able to see that truth and really think that this came from Jesus. And so many great things about VBS for this year, and so excited for our serve team members to really play a part in so many different areas. But all of them have meaning and purpose.
Yes,
like many people, don't think, well, what does registrations do? Well, they do the busyness at the beginning, but even that parent conversation may be the most important thing.
Right.
For crafts, just getting out extra supplies is still so important, just so kids can have time to be able to enjoy what they're doing and learn what they're doing. So everything, no matter how big, no matter how small, it looks like on paper, is so important and impacts, again, not just kids, but families, and the prayers for them to come back and to understand what it looks like to be a part of a local church. Because the care that serve team members give to kids is not a 1 week experience.
It's not.
And we don't want it to be.
No.
We want that to be like a continual thing throughout the entire time they're here. And same thing for the families. Like we want the care that they've experienced through serve team members to actually be, this is how Fairview is, to be a part of being a part of Fairview Church. This is what it looks like to be cared for. And so for you as listeners, continue to pray for kids as they're going to hear, I think, the gospel so clearly and true through this theme. And then pray for our families who maybe have stepped foot into this church a little bit, maybe not at all, maybe are questioning, what could be my church home. So pray for those conversations with a lot of people who are designated to have those conversations, and pray for really just a fruitful week with just good conversations. Because remember, those conversations lead for weeks ahead with families, with serve team members. And so you'll see even the effects of VBS. Many times you see it, I feel like, the fruitfulness of it many weeks after.
Absolutely.
Rather than just that one day. And so pray for that, and super excited. So
it's going to be
It's going to be great. So serve if you can, and you should. So serve.
Well, and you can serve beforehand too. There's always things. So kind of off of Drew's mindset of, capitalizing on the time that our kids have, because I think it's like 22 minutes per rotation, which is not a lot of time, but that's why prepping and pre-registration matters greatly, because we're planning ahead so that our kids can have the most, and they can optimize the time that we have, and the leaders can be very intentional with the time that they have. So pray for that as well, friends, that we would steward the time that God's given us well. And we're excited. It's going to be a great week.
So you can do something right now, which is pre-register. Right now, you can swipe off,
go serve,
and pre-register. And other than that, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you soon.
Bye, guys.